Today on AMC Movie Talk, John and the panel will discuss Ant-Man getting an official release date, Kick-Ass 2 details, Ghostbusters 3 going into production, and a whole bunch more. So sit tight. AMC Movie Talk starts right now.
Welcome to AMC Movie Talk for movie fans. This is episode number 21, originally recorded on Thursday, October the 18th, 2012, at the beautiful AMC Burbank 16 in Burbank, California. The dream of Arrested Development. Thanks a lot for joining us, folks. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Greetings, salutations, everybody. Welcome to AMC Movie Talk for movie fans. As always, I'm your host. My name is John Campia. Joining me, first of all, sitting to my immediate right, she is the associate editor of movie news around here at AMC Theater. She's Miss Roth Cornett. Roth.
Hello.
And also joining us, a regular around here, Miss Amy Rose Eisenbach. Amy Rose, thanks for being here.
What up?
Sitting back there at the table, you, of course, recognize her, Miss Candon Jackson.
Good to be back.
Good to have you here, too. And we are going to start off this week's episode of AMC Movie Talk the way we start off every episode, by getting you caught up to date on everything going on in the world of movie news with your news flash. The official synopsis for the upcoming Kick-Ass 2 Balls to the Wall has been released and sounds amazing. Basically, the film follows our hero Kick-Ass, who is on his own when Mindy, who is Hit Girl, is caught by her adopted father sneaking out as Hit Girl one night and is forbidden from rejoining the fight against crime. Kick-Ass joins up with a new hero team called Justice Forever, led by the born-again ex-mobster named Colonel Stars and Stripes. However, just when they start to clean up the streets, Red Mist forms a new team of villains to take on the heroes. Oh, and Red Mist has given himself a new name. The Mother Effer, only it's not Effer. We can't say what his full name is here on the show. The Mother Effer. Kick-Ass 2 Balls to the Wall is set to hit AMC theaters everywhere this upcoming summer.
Cannot wait. Christoph Waltz, who you will know from Inglourious Bastards and the upcoming Django Unchained, has been cast as the Soviet leader Mikhail Gorbachev and director Mike Newell's Reykjavik. Say that 10 times fast. The film's producer Ridley Scott describes the project thusly. The film will offer the viewer a unique look into the two larger-than-life figures who served as the catalyst for one of the most defining moments in our history, the end of the Cold War. Waltz joins Michael Douglas, who will portray President Ronald Reagan in the film that follows Reagan's sojourn to Iceland in October 1986 to meet with Gorbachev for Cold War peace talks. Can we all agree that this needs a new title?
Yes, one that perhaps everybody can enunciate.
Or new reader.
It's been made official. Ant-Man will be the next Marvel superhero to join the ranks of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, as Disney has announced that Henry Pym and his superhero alter ego will hit the big screen on November 6th, 2015, and will be the first Marvel film following The Avengers 2. As expected, the film will be directed by Shaun of the Dead and Scott Pilgrim vs. the World director Edgar Wright. No word yet on casting for the film, but we'll keep you up to date as more details emerge.
Remember that horror film, The Woman in Black?
So bad.
Starring, I thought it had some scary moments. Yeah. In any event, it was starring my beloved Harry Potter, Daniel Radcliffe. Well, it looks like it's going to get a sequel. The new film will be called The Woman in Black, Angel of Death.
Damn.
Yes. The film will pick up 40 years after the events of the first, as a group of evacuated children are set up to temporarily live in the house from the original and awaken its darkest inhabitant. No official word if Radcliffe will somehow return to reprise his role. It is possible if you've seen the film, but the term highly doubtful does come to mind.
So he'll be like 60?
No, I can't give a spoiler. I can't give a spoiler.
Warner Brothers has just won a major victory regarding the rights to Superman. WB was taken to court by Jean Pevy, who is the sister of Superman co-creator Joe Shuster. Good Canadian kid. As a termination notice on the copyright to the character Superman. Judge Otis D. Wright ruled that an agreement made in 1992 by PV negotiated with Warner Brothers basically took away her right to issue a termination notice. The referenced 1992 deal with WB, PV released DC and Warner Brothers from any further requirements to use the Superman character, and thus is disqualified from issuing the termination notice on the copyright license. However, that doesn't mean WB is free and clear forever. They still have to deal with the estate of the other Superman co-creator, who in 2008 won a court case that retained their right to issue a termination notice on the lease. We will keep you updated as this develops.
I love that story. So Warner Brothers, speaking of, has made slight alterations to both the title and release date of Bryan Singer's upcoming fantasy adventure based on the Jack and the Beanstalk story. You probably know Singer from such films as The Usual Suspects, the X-Men 1 and 2, Valkyrie, and Superman Returns. The title was Jack the Giant Killer and has now been changed to Jack the Giant Slayer. The movie also moved release dates, and it will arrive in 2D, 3D, and IMAX 3D theaters, AMC theaters if you will, on March 1st, 2013 instead of the previously announced March 22nd. Starring Nicholas Hoult, Stanley Tucci, Ian McShane, Bill Nighy, Eleanor Tomlinson, and Ewan McGregor, the film tells the story of an ancient war that is reignited when a young farmhand unwittingly opens a gateway between our world and a fearsome race of giants. Unleashed on the earth for the first time in centuries, the giants strive to reclaim the land they once lost, forcing young Jack into the battle of his life to stop them.
Oh, good! More Ghostbusters 3 news. Please note my dripping sarcasm. Deadline is now reporting that Ivan Reitman is indeed returning to direct Ghostbusters 3, and the film will go into production in the summer of 2013 with a target release date of sometime in 2014 to coincide with the 30th anniversary of the original film. No, there's still no Bill Murray. He will pass on the new film. Dan Aykroyd reaffirmed that the movie will focus on the old Ghostbusters guard, handing the reins over to the next generation, but will still feature most of the original cast aside from Murray, who seems to be the only one smart enough to avoid getting involved in this project.
True that. Although the film hasn't even officially opened, it does this weekend. There are plans already firmly in place to bring us an Alex Cross sequel, which will be titled Double Cross.
Double Cross!
We're gonna pull that out.
Wow.
It's called Double Cross, people.
Do you have a twin?
Reports claim that both author James Patterson and Tyler Perry are close to signing the deal to greenlight the sequel. Tyler Perry declined the option to direct the upcoming Alex Cross, but there is no word yet that he may decide to direct Double Cross. Alex Cross opens nationwide in AMC theaters this weekend.
And that will do it for your news flash. Hey, folks, before we get into some more details and discussion on some of these news topics, I want to remind you that before doing anything else, right now, you'll see a button pop up on the screen right now. You need to subscribe to our AMC Theaters YouTube channel. It'll keep you up to date on all the movie news that's going on, our editorials, and, of course, the weekly AMC Movie Talk show. So take a minute, click on the subscribe button. If you're watching us on one of your mobile devices, make sure you go to our AMC YouTube page and click subscribe. Get hooked up and always be in the loop on what's going on with us. Hey, and listen, if you'd like to listen to an audio-only version of this show, say you're driving in your car, you'd like to listen to the show and to the movie discussion, check the description of this video and in the post, if you're watching this on our website, for a link to the audio-only version of this episode, as well as a link to subscribe in iTunes to the audio-only version so you can get it updated automatically every week. Hey, I want to mention one other thing. You may remember last week that Roth is pretty excited about this new film that opened in AMC theaters last week called Seven Psychopaths.
Yes.
She
just loves the Shih Tzu.
I love the Shih Tzu out of that dog. It's amazing. I'm really serious. This movie is really good. Everyone ought to see it. And guess how you can see it?
Well, we actually have AMC theaters. We love this movie so much. We want to make sure you have every opportunity, and we want to entice you to get out to see this film. So here's what we're doing. This Saturday, we are offering a deal where buy one ticket to Seven Psychopaths, get a second ticket free. So that means two of you can go for the price of one. We are going to put up details later today on AMC's our movie news site, which is at amctheaters.com/movie-news. You can get all the details there. It'll also be up on our Facebook page at facebook.com/AMC Theaters, and we'll put out a tweet about it as well. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/AMC Theaters.
I want to say something legit. I'm serious. This is something that I love about this company. I'll be the judge of that. This is something I love about this company is that it really supports independent film. Not that this is necessarily an independent film, but it is a film that other people
dances between the two,
it dances the line, and it's a film that people may otherwise not see. It will be, I swear, one of the most unique, bizarre, insane, funny, ridiculous, violent, well-acted, and well-written films that you will see this year. If you want to see it and a friend is on the fence, take them for free.
So there you go. Once again, check out all of our various channels for all the details on how you can take advantage of this 2-for-1 deal on our AMC channels. All right, let's get into it here. Topic number one. We've known for some time that Marvel wanted to get an Ant-Man project on the go. We've known for some time that amazing director Edgar Wright was attached if such a project came to fruition. They showed some test footage at Comic-Con. But as Roth actually pointed out on AMC earlier this week, it's kind of been feeling like Marvel has been feeling it out, seeing what audience reaction was going to be before really 100% committing to it. Well, that's all done now. It's official. Ant-Man is coming. It's going to be directed by Edgar Wright, as expected, and it's going to be the first Marvel film to come out after Avengers Part 2. Lot of reaction online I'm seeing about this. Roth, give me your first impressions about this when you hear that Ant-Man's a go.
I was really surprised. And I think I'm more surprised than I have a right to be in a way, because Edgar Wright's certainly been dancing around this for several years, which I knew. And maybe that's why I think that sometimes when someone's talking about something for Ghostbusters 2, we'll talk about that later. When somebody's been talking about something, for such X amount of time and it doesn't happen, you're just like, it's not going to happen. This is just that thing that Edgar Wright likes to talk about. But then when they had the test footage at Comic-Con, I thought, okay, Marvel's really seeing if their fan base at least will show up for this, because Comic-Con's sort of the perfect place to see if at least their core fan base will show up. If you don't even have your core fan base, you really have nothing when you're making an Ant-Man movie. And this may be a brilliant script, and I love Edgar Wright, but I am really surprised because he doesn't seem to fit into the visual and tonal aesthetic that they have devised that has created kind of a cohesive universe. In as much as the films are all unique, they're really a cohesive universe, the Marvel films. And Edgar Wright is his own thing. And Ant-Man is bananas. You know what I mean? Like, the character's out of control. It's a guy that can shrink himself and control ants with a helmet.
Yeah, he doesn't do it for
Actually, here's an interesting question. Candon, as the one of the people here who's not, you're not, I think it's fair to say you're not a comic book junkie.
No, but I have learned quite a lot.
But, so my question is, as somebody who's not like a full-blown comic book junkie, how much do you know about Ant-Man?
Well, to be honest, I just Googled Ant-Man while you guys were talking, and he looks ridiculous. Like, he's flying on an ant. That just is weird.
That raises a great point. One of the reasons I find Ant-Man such an interesting, and I'm going to use the term interesting right now, an interesting choice is because...
It's kind.
Look, most people who are not comic book junkies know who Thor is. You may not know all the mythology of Thor and everything goes in, but you know who Thor is. You know who Iron Man is. Everybody knows who Captain America is. Everybody knows who the Incredible Hulk is. Granted, not as many people know who Black Widow is, or something, but they were, for the most part, they were secondary characters. So now,
I love Black Widow.
Ant-Man, now you're getting into, this is going to be the first movie they do where it's just a character that nobody really knows. Amy Rose, good idea, bad idea? What do you see in this decision?
He's never really done it for me. I don't, there's other scientist turned discovery into cool things that I like. I mean, the Lizard, I like him. He's much cooler to me than Ant-Man. Whatever, I will still see it because I'm a devoted Marvel junkie. So that's that. And I do like Wright, but
So there's a picture
kind of lackluster
of
to me, to be honest.
There's a picture of Ant-Man going up the Hulk's nose.
Yeah.
That I will watch.
And ants are annoying as hell, so...
I think it'll be interesting because they're going to do Guardians of the Galaxy first, which was the other one that's like,
yes,
this is like...
Nobody's heard of Guardians of the Galaxy. Yeah.
Rocket
More
Raccoon.
than Ant-Man, though.
And also it's got crazy characters, like a raccoon. It's a talking
Rocket
raccoon.
And I'll disagree with you. I know Ant-Man a lot better than... I think, my sister has heard of Ant-Man, never heard of Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
So that's an interesting choice. I also think it's kind of interesting that this is where a lot of the debate is coming in online between people is, okay, it's time to introduce a new character in. Okay, well, they've already got Guardians of the Galaxy, but all right, a new individual character. Here's the question a lot of people are asking. If you're going to bring in a new character, why not Black Panther?
Yeah, that has been a huge question. Why not Black Panther? And I know that there's kind of equal camps that have been wanting to see a Black Panther movie for a long time. And it is a good question. I think that is a valid question.
Because it's a very interesting mythology to Black Panther.
Yeah. And I think it's and I can think of 5 actors off the top of my, I'm sure there's a lot of actors that would love to play that character. I can think 5 off the top of my head that I think would be great, It is an interesting question. Why?
I was speaking with Idris Elba and asked him that question.
Idris Elba.
And the first thing he said was,
so cool.
Black Panther.
Black Panther, exactly.
And he said, I'd love to play Black Panther.
And how great would he be?
Ant-Man, and obviously Wasp is going to be in it too.
I don't know. I mean, and I think, this is what I think. I think that Ant-Man moved forward instead of another character simply because of Edgar Wright. Because Edgar Wright has been working on the script. He's been shooting test footage. He's been pushing it forward. He's been the person championing it for X amount of time. And I think that they finally, with whatever the response was at Comic-Con and so forth, decided to go ahead and take the risk. They were going to take a risk with Guardians of the Galaxy. And hey, listen, I know that we all are like, everyone knows who Iron Man is now. But at the time, I think there were a lot of people that were going, Iron Man, wow, because that was before they had really started to dig in to the larger universe, and they were using the characters that we were all already pretty familiar with, And so this may be amazing. Ant-Man may end up being one of our favorite characters brought to...
Edgar Wright is amazing, so I think it has a chance.
Yeah. But I think I understand why people are upset about Black Panther, but I think it's not Marvel being I don't think that was a forethought. I think that it was the fact that Edgar Wright already had the package all together for Ant-Man.
Yeah.
Well, and there's another thing. Here's an interesting thing that I haven't read anybody talking about. To me, this is the most fascinating thing. We're all talking about Marvel Phase 2 now. Now that the Avengers are done, we're now in Phase 2. This is the first. Now, we heard Kevin Feige earlier say that, we've got some thoughts on Phase 3. This is the first definitive proof to us that they are already in their planning stages for Phase 3. Ant-Man is going to be the first thing for Phase 3. Here's my theory about why we're getting Ant-Man instead of Black Panther. Pardon me. I think Black Panther makes a much more interesting standalone movie. When you look at the mythology and the...
much more interesting.
Extremely interesting. But, and I've got nothing to back this up with. This is just me using my sheer brilliance to share with you all. I don't believe they were ever planning, and I still don't believe that they were planning to first introduce us to Henry Pym, Ant-Man, in Ant-Man. I believe we were going to see Ant-Man, Henry Pym in Avengers 2, if not before. I'm probably not before, but I believe we're going to see Ant-Man in Avengers 2 that will then lead into his film. Now, and as much as I said that Black Panther makes a much more interesting standalone movie, I think launching a character into Avengers makes a lot more sense for an Ant-Man than it does for Black Panther. So if they were just starting the new character with their own standalone movie, I'd say absolutely go with Black Panther. If you're going to introduce the new character in with the Avengers 2, which once again, there's nothing out official that says that's happening, I'm just always right, and I'm telling you that's what's going to happen, that I think it makes much more sense for Ant-Man to be introduced in with the Avengers and then get his own movie. And let's make no mistake about it. We're going to see Black Panther
eventually.
Eventually, you know what? I would be surprised if Black Panther isn't in Marvel's Phase 3 plans already.
I mean, I just want to say I feel like your greatest virtue, John, is your modesty.
You know what? I got a Sunday school.
It's a Canadian thing.
I got a Sunday school prize pin for humility, but then they took it away from me because I wore it. Anyway,
that was a joke, by the way.
Thank you, Camden. Thank you, Camden. Yeah, I think unless everything falls apart and then suddenly people stop in the next 2 or 3 years going to see comic book movies,
not gonna happen.
That you will see Black Panther eventually. But it is kind of an interesting question. But why do you think that Ant-Man's better to introduce into the Avengers than Black Panther?
Because I think there is, with Black Panther, one of the things that makes him such a great character and makes him such a better candidate for introducing in his own film is that backstory. With Henry Pym, you don't need a lot of setup with Henry Pym / Ant-Man.
Yeah, you kind of get what he's all about.
One scene of dialogue with Nick Fury explaining who Ant-Man is, With Black Panther, you're not doing that character justice without the full backstory, where he comes from, the culture that he's coming from, the stuff with his dad.
Which is the stuff that I love.
Yes. You're not doing him justice by just introducing him in with another thing. With Henry Pym / Ant-Man, you can throw him right into the game, explain his backstory as you go, and it makes sense and it fits. Whereas with Black Panther, once again, I don't think you're doing the character justice.
And you have the female protagonist front and center right there, which they always love. So.
Yes.
That makes sense.
All right, let's move on to this next item. You know what? I probably talk more about Kick-Ass on this show than I should, because I probably care more about this film than
such
anything.
thing.
I love it,
But
too.
I'm telling you, once again, if you haven't seen the original Kick-Ass, it is such a treasure. It really is a treat. It was so pleasantly surprising to me.
Yeah, sleeper hit.
And I've been dying for Kick-Ass 2. Was so excited earlier this year when we heard that it was officially coming. So excited hearing Jim Carrey was coming on to play Colonel Stars and Stripes.
Awesome.
Rumors about Big Daddy.
Rumors
Resurrection.
about Big Daddy, which, here's the thing. I'm a little bit nervous now about the Big Daddy stuff because the synopsis comes out. There's no even hint of Big Daddy. But then again, why would they?
Nicolas Cage was so good as Big Daddy.
Please
bring him back.
Yeah, but
usually
why?
I'm not into the whole resurrection thing, but with him and like
He
Hit
never
Girl,
died.
Yeah.
There was never a body
True.
in a coffin.
there's a lot of craziness going
that was
down.
a lot to survive, though. I mean, they killed him pretty good. You know?
but did you?
But that's his training.
Did you
He's
see
a ninja.
Lawless?
I did see
That was a lot to survive too.
That's true.
But yeah, Hit Girl and Big Daddy together is like the best duo.
And you know, I gotta say,
Lawless was based on, that was a real guy, too.
Yeah, that was based on a true story, real guy.
Tom Hardy was so good.
Yeah.
It's the best I've ever seen him.
So
and that
good.
includes, that includes everything I've seen him in. Including Bronson, including Dark Knight. I think that's the best I've ever seen him. That being not the best movie he's ever been in, but I think his best performance. There's so many things to like about the synopsis for Kick-Ass 2.
First, let's start with the names.
Okay, first and foremost, Head and
Mother
Shoulders.
Effer. The Mother Effer.
The Mother Effer.
Come on.
It's so good.
That's amazing.
Can't you just see McLovin saying,
Yes.
my name is
Yes, I can.
the Mother
Mother
Effer.
Effer.
He was hilarious as Red Mist, I thought.
He was great as Red Mist.
And
He was great.
I don't, you guys have, everybody's interviewed him, yes?
Yeah.
And he's got such a lovely, sweet.
He's exactly what you think he's going to be, and that's
He's
rare.
not because
I thought he'd be a sweetie.
he plays this sort of bratty, harsh, horrible little brat very well. Right? Well,
But he's a softie.
Red Mist had his vulnerable side, and he's justifiably.
He had a conscience. Red Mist
he
had
did.
a conscience.
He did have a
wanted
conscience.
to do the right thing until
until you mess
pressure.
with his papa.
until his dad died. Now he's full blown baddie. I got to tell the story quickly. A couple years ago at Comic-Con, I've thrown a party at Comic-Con the last couple years, and Christopher Mintz-Plasse was one of our guests, and we were actually giving him an AMC Film Fanatics Award that night, and he showed up just a little bit late to the party, just a little bit late, and his publicist got out of the car, but he didn't, because I was downstairs by the front door waiting for him to make sure he can get in, no problem. And his publicist comes up to me and he says, Christopher just got a phone call about 15 minutes ago. His grandfather just died.
Aww.
And I'm like, what? I'm like, tell him to go. Tell him to get out of here. He doesn't need to be here. He said, no. He said he's really been looking forward to this. He says he's made a commitment to this and he wants to follow through. I'm like, for a kid that young, and he's not like a child.
No, but he's still
to have
young
that
actor.
type of professionalism, to integrity, to say, you know what, I made a commitment to this. I'm doing this. So he and I went into the party. We sat down in, I had like a little private cabana thing. And I said, look, seriously, like, I'm so glad you're here, but you can go. Like, you don't need to sit. And you could tell he was so upset.
Aww.
And you could tell that I don't know his relationship with the grandfather, but you can just tell he loved his grandfather. I mean, he was so upset. He's like, no, man, I'm really honored that you guys are doing this for me. And I made a commitment. I want to do this. I really do. I'm like, all right, but at any moment you want to leave, just leave. And he said, sure, no problem. And he went through with the night, and he was great and impressed me to no end. He made a fan. I was already a fan, but he made a fan out of me for life. The way he conducted himself, you know. It's just because who would have blamed him if he said, I can't do this, I got to leave. Nobody would have blamed him.
Very classy and professional.
But he's the mother effer.
Yeah, he's the mother effer. And I think the great thing, too, about Kick-Ass is that, I mean, look, comic books have the same tropes, basically.
Yeah.
You know, it's like the two best friends and one's really wealthy and then the dad dies via the hands of the hero and he becomes the villain. But what Kick-Ass manages to do is take the exact same story ideas and refresh it, you know?
And it does it purposefully. It uses
And
those
totally
stereotypes
purposely.
on purpose.
Yeah, and turns yeah, exactly. It's taking the tropes and it's turning them on themselves and exploring this idea of a hero and a villain. And so what I hope to see with the mother effer, and I'm gonna mess up at some point.
At some point,
I'm
we
gonna
may have to
actually
bleep.
say
We may
it.
have to. You may have to bleep here. We might slip.
I mean, I'm hoping to see that he still retains some of that kind of other aspects of his personality.
I feel like he will, especially with a name like that. Like, it's just going to happen. The mother effer, like, when we first hear it on screen, the delivery of it, I mean, it's going to be awesome. I keep doing this because that just feels really natural with the mother effer.
It does. And Hit Girl is back.
Hit Girl's awesome.
So
I love her.
Excited, and you know that in the synopsis reads, okay, she gets busted by trying to sneak out as Hit Girl, which means we're going to see her near in the beginning.
And
as
who's
Hit
her
Girl.
stepdad?
It's his partner. It's Nicolas Cage's
Oh, yes,
partner.
yes,
Remember,
yes,
he
yes.
ends up adopting her at the end.
Yes, I forgot.
And so she gets busted, but you know when Justice Forever gets in trouble with this new League of
Justice
Evil
Forever.
with the mother effer, that Hit Girl will reemerge.
Well, but here's the thing: is like they have
She's
a
so
similar
cool.
vendetta. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Hit Girl has the vendetta about Big Daddy, and the
but
mother
her
effer
vendetta
has
has been resolved.
It's been resolved,
Yeah.
sure, but that leaves wounds, John. And she was already quite.
She was raised an
troubled.
assassin. That's in her
Tell her
blood.
to suck
That's
it up
who
and
she
get
is.
over it.
That's who she is.
But
badass.
I'm so excited. This whole thing about him, Kick-Ass joining up with Justice Forever, the superhero team, the born-again gangster, Colonel Stars and Stripes, played by Jim Carrey.
Jim Carrey's going to kill that role.
He really will. And I'm not one of these, I'm not a Jim Carrey fanboy to the point where I go, oh yeah, put Jim Carrey in anything, he'd be great. This is a
perfect.
great role for him.
Did you like him as the Riddler? Speaking of comic book kind of things.
Okay.
He missed for me.
I
in
think
that.
The problem was, he wasn't the problem. The problem was the entire
the entire
tone of that
film was
movie.
the problem.
It was
The
a problem.
Okay, let me ask. Okay, because we're all really excited about Kick-Ass 2, Balls to Wall, obviously, as we should be and as you should be. Do you have any concerns at all that Matthew Vaughn is not directing?
No. And I
don't
think
either.
initially I was at first, but we talk about this all the time, not only on air, but off air. We talk about this all the time. One of the most translucent, flexible, pliable terms in all of Hollywood is producer. When somebody says they're a producer on a film, that means nothing.
Nothing.
Yeah.
It
Just
could
a name at
mean-
times.
It could mean they're involved with every detail on the day-to-day operations. It could mean that they signed one check once,
Yep.
or got one guy involved. Yeah, I know this actor, I can help you get him involved, but I get a producer credit. So it could mean nothing. When I really read about how heavily involved Matthew Vaughn is with this in terms of getting the script ready and the story and hand-selecting the director, then I went, okay, I feel safe with this.
Yeah.
I do feel safe with this. And because even before it gets to the director's chair, Matthew Vaughn's hands are all over this. So I feel good about it.
Yeah.
Would I prefer to see actually
Yes.
Matthew Vaughn back directing? Absolutely. It's a
Yes.
no-brainer. But I feel pretty good about it.
I feel like
Same.
the only thing is that if the movie isn't as good as the first one was and isn't as good as we all want it to be, we know exactly who's going to get the blame for that.
Yeah.
So he's,
Always.
it's a bit of a risk on his part, but it'll be interesting. I don't have huge concerns, but I
don't
do
either.
wish it was Matthew
All
Vaughn.
excitement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Let's move on to the next topic. Talking about movies that I can't wait to see. Ghostbusters 3 news comes out. Again, I'm dripping with sarcasm.
No.
Look, and let me preface everything I'm going to say with this. Like everybody else in the world, I loved the original Ghostbusters. Loved it. Still do. I still will stop the clicking when I come to it and it's being broadcast on TV somewhere. I'll stop and watch.
Stop the clicking.
Stop the clicking. Was not a big fan of Ghostbusters 2. I think some people are. The nostalgia of the first Ghostbusters, I think,
Carried
colors.
over, yeah.
I think it's distorting some people's.
It wasn't embarrassing, but it wasn't good.
Excuse
Yeah.
me, the Stay Puft Marshmallow. Oh,
I
no, that's
mean-
in the first one. You're
Ghostbusters
talking about
2.
Ghostbusters
Yeah.
2. Okay.
I think Hollywood is addicted to sequels.
Well,
Well, there's a good reason for that,
Sequels,
right?
prequels.
I mean, because
But
sequels.
some of them just
triple prequel.
don't need it. Like it's like I feel like it's a new thing. Like this newer generation of movies. I feel like it's just like sequel explosion. Everything deserves a sequel, and it's just not true.
Well, it all depends. I mean,
Even before it's
there
released.
there are films like for instance, like Alex Cross. They're always talking Alex Cross too. There are films that, obviously, Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
You can't do that in one film. Obviously, The Godfather. The Godfather 2 is one of the greatest films of all time. Then you look at films. Some sequels are just blatantly horrible, but then you get some sequels like they happen. The first Star Trek movie, the Star Trek the Motion Picture, is a horrible movie. It's a
awful.
Bad movie. Star Trek II, Wrath of Khan.
Pretty awesome.
Thank God they made that movie. That movie is all-time classic sci-fi movie.
Yeah. But that already had a whole history,
Right,
and had a
look at
whole
movies like
franchise
Rush
and
Hour.
canon.
I
Yeah.
thought the first Rush Hour was a mediocre to poor
I thought it was
film.
funny.
But I thought Rush Hour 2
It was better.
was inexplicably funny.
Yeah,
and
it was really funny.
I enjoyed it. I was thoroughly entertained
Or
by it.
sometimes you wait till the fifth one if it's Fast Five.
Yeah, it took
And
them
then it gets
5
good.
films to get it right.
It took them 5 films to
That
course
always
correct.
brings it back to your male crush, though. Whenever The Rock is in a film, you're in.
I'm in. But I've seen Rock in some bad movies.
But
I'm a
you still
Paul
love him.
Walker fan.
But yeah, you know what?
Just his aesthetics,
Yeah,
right? Not his
exactly.
acting ability.
Exactly.
It's good.
Totally.
He's a
Paul
handsome
Walker.
gentleman. He's a handsome
He
gentleman.
is, but he's
I
a
think
bad actor.
One of my arguments that I always have with people is this, and the point I love to bring up is this: is like, are we seeing an exponential growth in the number of sequels and franchises? The answer to that is obviously yes, we are. However, we are also seeing an exponential growth over the past 15 years of how many films in general are getting made. Like, I remember, I pulled up this number once. I think it was 1992. The number of studio-produced, wide-release, whatever films was something like 300 and something, whatever, right? Go back to 2 years ago, the number was around 900.
Wow.
So there is a lot more film being made, a lot more stories being told, and I think really, if you do the math, the number of sequels and franchise films being made in proportion to the ones that aren't sequels,
Right.
they're probably roughly the
Ratio-wise.
same ratio-wise.
Yeah.
But that being said, I can understand a return to Ghostbusters because of the nostalgia of it. Ghostbusters was a huge, like, pop culture phenomenon.
It's awesome. Yeah.
Like, who you gonna call? I mean, everybody knows that. We all know
Not
the
Bill
song.
Murray.
We're all
Not Bill
humming-
Murray.
Yeah, but here's where 2 problems come involved here.
Only
One-
2?
This is the 2 main ones. The number one is, it's too late. No, let me go with 3 problems here. Number 1, it's too late. This is something that should have been done 10 years ago. And I mean that.
30th
10
anniversary. Come on.
I agree with you. It's
Yeah.
too late.
Should have been 10 years ago.
But will you still see it?
Well, let me get to that. I always get this. This is also a movie that they have been trying to get moving
Forever.
for 10 years.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And when you have a movie with this much problem, my second big problem is this. If I want to get involved with the Ghostbusters 3 because of nostalgia's sake, then I want Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
I
I
don't
need
want
Bill
some new
Murray.
generation led by Seth Rogen. Not that I love Seth Rogen, don't get me wrong, but Seth Rogen is not a Ghostbuster to me.
No, he's not.
The
It's
third
going to
thing-
be Ashton Kutcher.
It's
Yeah,
probably
it's
gonna be
always Ashton Kutcher.
It's always Ashton.
And then the third thing is, it's not Ghostbusters if Bill Murray's not there.
No.
Yeah.
True.
Agreed.
Not
Like,
even close.
Ghostbusters is bigger than just one guy, absolutely.
But
if
props
you're
to
gonna
him for turning
do
it down.
And so, Manel,
It's not like he needs it.
He doesn't, but good
Yeah.
for
But
him.
now let
He's
me say this. I am saying all this stuff, all the problems I have, and why I am not looking forward to Ghostbusters 3. But keep in mind, I am also the same guy who was not looking forward to the original Iron Man. I, for 6 months, said Iron Man is a stupid character. He's a poor man's Batman.
Ugh.
He's just another rich billionaire who has no superpowers, uses his money to make toys, and uses those toys to fight crime, blah, blah, blah. He's just a poor man's Batman. I said that a lot for the year leading up to the original Iron Man. I loved the original Iron Man. And so keep that in mind. So am I going to go see Ghostbusters 3? Yes, I will, because I'm going to give it a shot. Does it have the potential to really shock and surprise me the way the original, the way Iron Man did? Absolutely it does. It absolutely could blow us away. I'm just saying that these are my concerns.
Yeah, I'm not that
I
excited
don't
about
know.
it either.
I
I
don't-
mean,
yeah, I does it really? Because the thing is, Iron Man didn't have another Iron Man film. It had the comics, but it didn't have another Iron Man film that it
To
was
live up
being
to.
to live up
Exactly.
to. Ghostbusters has Ghostbusters to live up
Yeah.
to. And you're right. I mean, the thing is, the problem for me is this. It's been talked about ad nauseum
Yeah.
for years.
Oh,
and it's
years
just
and years
like,
and years.
it's just one of those things that, like I think I said this on a previous podcast, that it's like crazy, crazy, crazy Uncle Dan's talking about Ghostbusters 3 again. Uncle Dan, be quiet. Go sit in your recliner.
And I love Uncle Dan.
I love Uncle Dan
love
too.
Dan Aykroyd.
I love Dan Aykroyd, but
Me
it's one of those
too.
things where you start to feel like this person is really trying to cash in on something that was done for him
Yeah.
a long time ago, and it's the person that still has a career, which is
Yeah.
Bill Murray, wants nothing to do with it, which makes the project seem like it's inherently flawed. You know what I mean? Because if the person who had the career and didn't have to say yes said yes, you would think, oh, this must be a good script. He
And you
said
wouldn't
yes.
blame him for the nostalgia factor and wanting to get in there either.
Well, except
but
that
like,
I will, and I know you don't like this film, but Blues Brothers. The Blues Brothers. I don't want to discuss.
no.
I don't want to discuss
I
it.
don't dislike the Blues Brothers.
it wasn't amazing, but it
But
wasn't
when he came back to
embarrassing
that,
either.
it was him trying to resurrect a character,
and it didn't work.
and
for
it
me.
didn't work at all.
Yeah.
First of all, the other half of that team had
Gone.
passed away.
Yeah.
So I feel like Ghostbusters 3 has so much working against it.
Yeah.
It cannot recapture that charm and that ingenuity because we know what it is. We've seen it.
Yeah.
So what are you going to bring to the table besides Ashton Kutcher that's new? You know?
Yeah, and I don't want to see new. I don't want to see
No,
new Ghostbusters.
I'm not that excited about it either.
I don't want to. I would. Man, I can't believe I'm going to say this. I would almost be more enthusiastic at this point just hearing they were rebooting Ghostbusters
Really?
than
That's bold.
this. Because
Yeah.
rebooting it makes some sense. It's an old film, could really use the upgraded technology today to
But
make
it's
that
not
film look great.
necessary.
Well, necessary doesn't come into
No,
into
not
the
in
discussion.
reboots.
And I think that would have made more sense. But anyway, let's move on. Let's move on from that. We're going to get to the mailbag in just a second here. But before we do get to our mailbag, I want to remind you guys that, as we mentioned in the news flash, the new film Alex Cross opens this weekend in AMC theaters nationwide, everywhere. You can get out and see it. And one of the real pleasant surprises of this film, Alex Cross, was the villain played by Matthew Fox, who just physically looks unbelievable.
Long way from Lost,
It's
huh?
a long way from Lost, and he plays a great villain. Roth, actually, last week,
I
you had a
envied
chance
him.
to go and sit down and talk with Matthew Fox about Alex Cross, and we want to share that conversation with you right now. Check it out.
So I'm sure everybody's been talking to you about the physical transformation that you go through in this.
Yeah.
What was that like for you as an actor, and then what do you think it sort of gives the character to have that body type?
Well, I just always saw the guy that way. I mean, I really felt that he needed to look like that. I didn't really buy him if he didn't look like that, honestly. I mean, I think that, the minute, in my mind, I kind of see the movie through the script, and I see this introduction of this character that we don't really know who he is, and then he enters this MMA ring, and suddenly we realize just that his body needed to represent that he's sort of, there has to be a sense of ominous foreboding. We haven't really seen him do anything radical yet, but we have to sort of see it represented in the way he carries himself. And I felt that he would burn on a level of energy that his body would just like sort of be eating away at itself all the time. So that's just the idea that I had for it, and I felt that it would be really challenging to try to do that. I'd never done anything like that before. I wasn't sure that I could do it, and so that was part of the process for me.
Do you feel like it was reflective of kind of his interest in discipline or his interest in pain, or both? Self-inflicted pain and pain to others?
Yeah, I mean, I do think he's a pretty masochistic guy, and he is interested in sort of extreme sacrifice and discipline and control, and doesn't tolerate any iota of weakness in himself. And so, yeah, I mean, I think that, that Picasso would never eat for enjoyment. He would never go sit down in a restaurant and have a nice meal and a glass of wine. I mean, that's just not... unless he was trying to put on a face for someone, he would never do that. I mean, the concept of eating for him would be purely fueling a system. And So yeah, I felt like it all worked for me in the way that I was trying to put it all together.
I talked to Tyler Perry, and he said that he had kept up with some of the Krav Maga training, and he felt like that really impacted his own life. And do you feel like the MMA training for you, is that something that you've kept up with? Certainly not the abusive non-eating, I hope.
No, I've been eating back to a normal situation. The day I finished the movie, I started eating things that I'd really missed and started enjoying those. And no, I haven't been doing any MMA stuff since the film. I can't say enough about how much help I got in that from Rory Markham, MMA fighter, just a super individual. And we had like 3 weeks to work together, training, and him sort of preparing me and starting to choreograph the sequence. And it's been once I left the film and was finished with my work there, I very much sort of went back to a normal pace of eating and exercise.
We were just talking about great cinema villains earlier. Where do you think that Picasso kind of fits in that? Is he a Hannibal Lecter type? He's not a serial killer.
Oh, I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, I didn't want to for me personally, when I was trying to put it all together, I didn't think too much about any references other than the blueprint that I'd been given with the script. And I wanted my process of sort of trying to create this guy to be unconstrained by any kind of borders or rules. And so I just went down the road of trying to figure him out the best I could and make sense of it all. And I really didn't have any reference to the other things.
Okay, great. Really quickly, what do you think that your fans are going to love about watching you make this transition, and Alex Cross fans are going to love about this movie?
I have no idea what people will take away from it. Again, I just try to be involved in stories that I think are really interesting, and the roles that I've been asked to play within them are things that are challenging to me and offer new challenges. And so I hope that the film, I hope all the Alex Cross fans out there, and I know there's a ton of them from the books, I hope that they appreciate this reboot, this update of this character within this film. I think Rob Cohen's the most amazing guy, and I think that the film is, which I haven't seen yet, I think I'm hearing really, really kinetic and hard hitting, and I hope they appreciate it, and I hope that any fans that I might bring in that were Lost fans or whatever, that they just enjoy the film, and it's up to them what they take away from it.
So once again, Alex Cross opens in AMC theaters everywhere this weekend. You can get your tickets for Alex Cross right now by going to amctheaters.com. You can also get tickets for Paranormal Activity 4, the aforementioned 7 Psychopaths.
And you should.
Lots of different films. Argo, which is my early Oscar favorite. But anyway, go on in there. You can get your tickets for just about anything. Now, every week we like to take questions from the mailbag. You guys can email us anytime at amcmovietalk@gmail.com. Then every week we pull out a couple of them from the emails that you guys send us and read those on air. And Cannon has a bunch of them out back there. So Cannon, what do we got in the mailbag?
We got some good ones today. First one is from Patty. She says, "Hey, John and the panel, I love the show. Please start doing it daily, even if it's shorter."
Oh, wow.
So we've been commissioned,
Working
guys.
on it. Working on it.
With Arrested Development getting new life on Netflix, what are the chances that we'll see the Bluth?
Yeah.
Bluth.
Oh, yeah,
Said
the
that right?
Bluth.
Oh, yeah.
Bluth family on the big screen in
It's
their
happening.
own feature
It's
film.
happening.
It's definitely happening.
Yeah.
It's
already
not going
good.
to happen never in a million
Oh,
years.
It's happening.
My God,
It is happening.
It's happening.
No.
It is so happening.
Not a
It is
chance.
happening. It
will
is definitely happening.
Kill you.
Okay, look.
Do not
Whoa,
even
I won't
put
kill
that-
you,
I
but
won't
it's
tell you.
happening.
Don't put that in the.
It's not going to happen. There's no
Okay,
never in a million
Arrested
years.
Development series has been talked about for years and years and years about picking it up in a movie and
Yes.
all this,
Yes.
but it's actually that's happening.
Yes.
and
Yes.
it's
And
going to
I've-
be awesome. And I think it wasn't appreciated in its time.
Well,
when
it
on,
was
and it's
appreciating.
awesome.
It was appreciated by the people that watched it, and it's got
A small
it's
group
got
of people.
a cult following. Well, it wasn't. The ratings weren't that bad. Even
They
That's the
weren't
thing.
amazing,
They
or
weren't
it would have
that
stayed
good.
on the air.
They were not. Well, that's a whole other argument about how quickly networks. I mean, the problem right now is that there's so much content available everywhere, and that networks are very rapid to cancel
But
shows.
not many
Rapidly,
comedies this good.
But Arrested Development, to be fair, had 3 seasons. It's getting the new life on Netflix, thank God, because it was massive genius hilarity. And
amazing.
if
The
you guys,
whole ensemble is amazing.
if you guys haven't seen it, pardon me. If you haven't seen it, you should check it out. You should, if you've seen it the first time, watch it again because you're going to see how brilliant it is. They will set up jokes and then pay them off 6 episodes or even a year later. It's incredible. I'm talking about The Hand, people, and you'll know what I mean if you've seen it.
That's why you always leave a note.
And I will say this, yes, it's funny that this comes up because it's similar to these other things, right? Where it's like we've been hearing about Arrested Development for years. You know, Michael Cera doesn't want to jump back on.
Because he's too big, because that's the role he plays throughout every movie.
Well, I think it's more complicated why he didn't want to jump back on as George Michael. But
he's George Michael in every film he does.
But however, I really honestly believe that it's going to be an odd synchronicity to see the fact that it can come back to life online and an online platform will actually propel the movie forward. I will make that bet with you that if it does well as I think it can do,
it's going to the big screen
on Netflix. There will be an Arrested Development movie. I have the faith, John.
I do too,
and I will not hear your doubt.
Here it is.
It is huge.
Okay. Now that the blind optimism is out of the way, let's get a couple things out of the way here first. Number one,
let's get the pessimism.
Arrested Development is a brilliant show.
Brilliant.
If you have not seen it, I echo
At least
everything
we're all in agreement
Roth
there.
has just said. It's funny. It's well thought out. Now, the one of the fair criticisms about the film has been that it was a very difficult show to jump in on halfway through.
Yes.
Granted.
But
yes.
you can still love it.
But it's online. You can get the DVDs. You can whatever. You can start from the beginning. It is well worth the investment, and it's not that big of an investment because it only had like 3 seasons. It's a great show, and a show that is deserving. And I would jump up and down with excitement for if they were to announce that they were making a feature film.
Good, because they will.
But now the realist is here.
No,
and I'm going to tell you that it's never going to happen ever, and here's why.
Debbie Downer.
First of all, I'm going to give you one word. Firefly. Firefly was an insanely popular show with those that watched it. It had an extremely passionate following. It was an excellent show, much like Arrested Development. It was great. It didn't have the ratings to continue on. Unlike Arrested Development, it only lasted 1 season. Arrested Development went 3. But like it didn't have the ratings to continue on. It got canceled. And then this groundswell of support for the show. People that wanted more Firefly. Okay, Universal Pictures finally bravely stood up and said, we are going to give you more Firefly. And then came one of the most underappreciated science fiction films of the past 10 years, Serenity, that nobody went to see. Nobody.
I've seen Serenity.
Yeah, and we're about it. The movie
delivery.
is awesome, and it bombed at the box office, lost tons of money, because the reality is this. People want to think that it makes good business sense to make a feature film because the original material we're talking about, whether it's a book or a comic book or a television show or whatever, was excellent. Makes no difference business-wise. The hard numbers are this. Arrested Development did not have enough followers to keep that show on air. They didn't. They also did make an effort to bring it back to network television before they made their deal with Netflix, and no networks would bite. So now they're going to Netflix, which is already taking the mass audience. Now, while Netflix is growing a lot, and I'm more aware of the online presence of things than anybody else, but it's still a smaller audience than what you're going to do than by putting New Girl up on ABC or Fox, forgive me. So the basic reality is this. They are simply not the numbers. And there is precedent for movie studios to look at and say, this does not make business sense. It just doesn't. There's precedence for this. This does not work. And I just do not see a Fox. I do not see Universal. I do not see anybody else stepping up and say, yes, we'll put up $40 million for this. It's not going to happen.
I will make a very quick counter argument. And here it is. I worked briefly in distribution. And the theatrical arm of the company that I worked for, because I worked in the broadcast distribution end of documentary films, right? They would sometimes take a documentary, and this is on a much smaller scale, obviously, sometimes take a documentary and release it in theaters basically as advertisement for the DVD sales.
Yes.
And so one option is that if an Arrested Development movie could live on the way the Arrested Development TV show has lived on. Now, the problem is now we have pirating and all these other things, and so there's so much more of a loss for independent films and films that are planning to live on and have their life in DVD sales than there used to be because there's so much pirating online, you know. But if they think that it can have a life, you know, sort of in whether it's DVDs or downloads or whatever, and depending on how much it costs to make the movie, and the big question for how much it costs to make an Arrested Development movie is how much is the talent going to demand? And if they're demanding astronomical amounts of money to make this movie, it's not going to happen. But if they come on as sort of a passion project and take a lower rate, it's possible that we could see a smaller release.
They still would have to put in $25 million for marketing. They'd still have to put...
Depending on how big the release is.
Yeah,
Depending on how big the release is.
Look, the approach that you suggest, I think, makes sense, but I don't think it's one they'd ever really consider. The idea of because the distributor that wanted to buy my film, they suggested the same thing. We put it in a limited theatrical release so it can promote.
Right. This is a different
sales.
World.
But yeah, this is a different level. Exactly.
It is. But
I like the idea. I like the idea, but I don't think that's a direction they would go. Although I wish they would listen to you.
They're gonna listen.
Yeah,
Ralph.
like I said,
it's happening.
Listen to me.
But you know what? Here's the thing, though. But here's the ultimate thing. If you're really a fan of Arrested Development, as I am, as everybody at this table is, as everyone at this table is, here's the thing. An Arrested Development feature film, a 190-minute episode, that, look, it's never going to happen, but even if it were, aren't you more happy as an Arrested Development fan to get 10 episodes?
I want both.
Netflix,
I want all of it.
Yes.
Just shower
me more. I want the
in
Bluths.
Bluths.
They're all
I want to
good.
bathe in the Bluth family.
And Henry Winkler as the lawyer?
Come on.
All right, so you're just making arguments to me about why it would be great. I agree.
We're optimistic.
If
it's happening.
If it ever does come to pass, we are all in agreement that we'll be thrilled. I'll be really happy if they make it, and I'll be one of the first in line.
And you'll buy us a
just
cocktail.
behind you guys.
Exactly, and you'll buy
to be
us
there.
drinks.
But I'm just telling you, I don't think it's ever going to happen. Anyway, and they disagree with me for the reasons they've mentioned.
It's because we believe in the secret.
The secret, positive thoughts.
Yes.
All right, Camden, what else do we got?
Let's talk about James Bond.
Let's do that.
This is from Jay, and I love talking about Daniel Craig and James Bond because I probably said this before, but I saw Daniel Craig on Broadway. I think he's incredible.
Don't ever look him directly in the eyes because you'll never be able to look away.
Yeah.
You'll know.
They are the most magnetic blue pools any human being has ever possessed. Continue. Sorry.
You're probably white.
Rachel Weisz gets to look in those eyes all the time.
Jay says, while still a little while down the road, it seems likely that at some point Daniel Craig will call it a day on his time as James Bond. Wah, wah, wah. Do you have any thoughts on how the studio will or should approach the continuation of the franchise? After the largely positive reception of Casino Royale, would they try rebooting the franchise again by going back to the origin of Bond? Will they just experiment with tone, style, with a new lead actor, or even maintain that of the one established in the Craig era?
Sony has said basically that they want Daniel Craig to keep playing Bond as long as he'll play Bond. So
he signed on for
three more films
recently.
after Skyfall. He signed on for 3 more. But it is an interesting question. I don't think you reboot Bond again.
No.
I think you do what Bond has traditionally done.
Yeah.
Just have each. I mean, remember, most Bond films now, or most Bond films in history, have been kind of their own standalone films, even if you've had the same guy. There's not been a lot of continuity in those films.
Different women, different Bonds.
Like a lot of the same characters.
Similar tropes.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Things will happen that are Bondy.
And I think I think you just do that. I think you go back to that tradition of Bond. Because with Pierce Brosnan's Bond, we didn't have an origin story. He's the new Bond.
Yeah,
exactly. And I think you do the same thing. And I'm going to throw out a name to you guys. Who I could see ultimately taking over the mantle of Bond.
This is big.
I like it.
Liam Hemsworth.
Ooh.
I actually think you give him 5, 6, 7, 8 more years.
Liam Hemsworth. Really?
I think Liam Hemsworth.
You want Thor, don't you?
Of course, Thor is his brother.
You want Thor.
Well, of course, his big brother, Chris Hemsworth, is taking over another super spy franchise with the American Assassin series. But I actually think Liam Hemsworth, I think he's got it. I really do. Give him 5 to 10 more
out
years.
of him to determine that.
Neither
but
have
in
I.
terms of his, physique and look and, I want to
He's
see if
gotta
he can
get
actually
older,
do some
though.
action.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
we're talking about 5 to 10 years down the line because Daniel Craig has 3 more Bond films after
Because
this.
the thing I love so much about Daniel Craig is that he's believable as an action star and as a womanizer.
Yeah.
So you really love both sides. Pierce Bronson, I didn't really believe he was badass. I believed that he's a charmer.
But that's been
I want
true.
both.
That's been true of just about every
I love
Bond,
Pierce.
right? They've
I
either
love
been.
Pierce, but he's no Daniel Craig. I think Daniel Craig's the best Bond.
I agree.
The
I agree.
funny thing about Pierce is that he's probably less of a womanizer, actually. But yeah, like.
But he
Vin-
played.
But he
you
was a
have
charmer, and
two
I didn't
Bonds.
believe him as a badass.
You have 2 Bonds, much like Batman. You have the Bruce Wayne side, you have
Yeah.
Batman side. Bond, there's always been 2 sides. There's been the
Exactly.
suave Bond, the womanizing, martini shaken not stirred Bond,
Yes.
and then you've got the
And now
badass.
beer, apparently.
So you got your Sean Connery Bonds, and you got your Roger Moore Bonds, and I think Daniel Craig is the first
both.
Bond
He's
to truly
the-
be both.
Exactly. And that's what I love about it.
Yeah, he bridges the bonds.
He does.
Yeah, he really does.
Bridges
But
the bonds.
I to counter your point,
I gotta forget before I forget this. There's this brilliant. Speaking of Sean Connery as Bond, there's this brilliant Family Guy clip where you know how they do cutaways in Family Guy.
Yeah.
Yes.
This is more of this than this, and they cut to something random. Well, they cut to this random thing of Sean Connery dressed as Bond, and he's in this hotel room with this beautiful woman, and whoever the voice actor is does a great Sean Connery, and he's like, "You and I are going to have sex," and she says,
That sounded like Bane.
but then she goes,
this is
she
going to be
says,
so synchronistic.
"No," and he goes, "Yes." And he pulls her in tighter. She goes, "No," and he's like, "Yes,
Yes.
no, yes, no, yes,
I've
okay,
seen this.
yes." And then he turns to the camera and goes, "Remember, gentlemen, 17 no's and 1 yes means yes."
That's amazing. Okay,
So good.
this is going to be amazingly synchronistic. I love Family Guy. Moving on from that, this is the argument that I would make. 2 things. 1, to reboot it, I think makes no sense. They had to
Nonsense.
refresh it because they saw with the Pierce the final attempt at being the old Bond and remaining in sort
at
of the
some
style
point you gotta
that they had
reset it. At some
established in
point.
the
At some
80s
point,
and
but
90s.
we've
It
got
just
some time.
didn't work anymore. They rebooted it and they created a new tone that worked in a contemporary world. I think it was brilliant. Yes, Daniel Craig bridges the bonds. But,
Bridges the bonds.
however, I would love to see a return to a more Sean Connery-esque Bond. And here is my name that I'm going to throw out. And by that, I mean big, powerful, gruff, manly Bond, really rough and tumble Bond, Tom Hardy. And if you don't think that he can do it because all you've seen him in is Warrior and as Bane and so forth, check him
He
out
can
once
do it.
again in Inception and think of that guy as a new Bond.
I think you could do
I
it.
still pick Liam Hemsworth, but I like your pick.
Yeah,
I
I think
like
Tom
the
Hardy
idea of
would
a
be good.
Tom Hardy as a Bond. I like the pick. I
Yeah.
do. I think it's a nice pick. What about you, Amy Rose? Who would you throw in there?
Oh man, I mean it's hard because I love Daniel Craig so much as that role. I'll have to think about that. I mean he's got to be good looking. The accent always does it for me, so that's a good one. And on a different note of villains, I'm so excited for Javier Bardem.
Oh,
He's
yeah.
the man.
Oh, yeah.
And so scary in
And
this
the
role.
dyed blonde hair. I mean,
Yeah.
we've always talked. We've
I'll
talked about that
I'll get
before.
back to you on that one though.
All right, let's move on to the next item here.
All right. Last one. This is from DJ. Got 2 questions. Hey guys, just want to say I think you guys are awesome and I love the show. In the past weeks or so, Fox has named Mike Miller to do a Joss Whedon-like job and consult over Fox's Marvel Cinematic franchises, X-Men and Fantastic Four. So my questions are, do you think this will work out the same way that Marvel did for their movie universe? Do you want me to read both?
Yeah, read both.
Do you ever, number 2, do you ever think there will be a day where all of these Marvel superhero movies, Avengers, Spider-Man, X-Men, Fantastic Four, etc., will be in one movie complete universe? And if so, if you were in charge, how would you set it up and what would it be like? That would be a lot of people in one movie.
Yeah.
I do think, going to the first question, I do think Fox has the idea to do what Marvel has done and create one cohesive universe
Yes.
for their superhero characters. So that means the X-Men universe, which is pretty big already.
Yes, and pretty awesome.
With the upcoming Fantastic Four universe. And I'm sure, I know they have another couple of characters, but I just can't think of who they have the rights to right now. They no longer have Daredevil. I know that.
I don't think anybody's crying.
Yeah, no. I still
I
think
wanted
a
to
good
see
Daredevil
a good-
movie would be pretty cool.
I wanted to see a good Joe Carnahan.
Yeah, that would have
Daredevil.
been pretty interesting. Now, that being said, so yeah, I do see it working out. I think that's what Marvel's aiming for. Now, whether or not it works out, I think it has its chances to work out. I really do. Let's give it the benefit of the doubt for now. Regarding the second half of the question, do we ever see a day where we can see all these? No. It's just not going to happen. So that would require Sony and Fox and Marvel, which includes Disney, to all get together and make one big happy movie. And you may think, well, it's going to make $1 billion. There's
Doesn't
not
matter.
enough to go around to how much each one of those guys.
Yeah.
Each of them would want 70% of the pie.
Yeah, not gonna happen.
It's not going to happen.
And there's so many arguments to be made. Like, this one has more characters, but this one has more valuable characters.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
You know, Disney at this point is like, I don't need you. You know,
Sony's not going to let
you know,
Spider-Man go.
like-
It's without a fight. I mean, it'd be really, really hard.
You raise a great point. If we were in a situation where, like, you know, the popularity of the Avengers just wasn't what we were hoping it was going to be.
Right.
Maybe if we broker a deal to get Spider-Man in there.
Right.
Maybe if we give, you know, $300 million to Sony, we can get a temporary license to have Spider-Man in one of our Avengers to give. You said it perfectly. Disney doesn't need them.
No, they don't.
Marvel does not need
No.
anybody. They don't
Nope.
need Spider-Man to be there, and they know it. They don't need the Fantastic
Yeah.
Four to be there, and they know it. It's the other properties that need them.
Exactly.
And that's the irony.
And that's why they're
I
holding
think
on to what
if
they
you
have.
see Guardians of the Galaxy and Ant-Man be a success, Marvel is going
And you
to
will.
triply be like, I really don't need you. Because
Yeah.
I can throw out some crazy business that no one's ever heard of, still going to make $1 billion.
Tier
You know?
5.
Like
it's
to
gonna
your
happen.
5. Yeah, to whatever you were making.
Phase 5, Jockstrap Man.
Yeah.
And it'll work.
And it will work. It will always
We'll
work.
still go see it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think it's a great question. It's brought up a lot. Do we ever think we could see Spider-Man in the Avengers and all that kind of stuff? But you know what? It's a two-pronged problem. Marvel don't need them.
Yeah.
Sony won't want to give up
No.
the
Yeah.
rights to them. Fox won't want to give up the rights to X-Men.
X-Men.
Yeah.
Unless
Fantastic Four.
the next Wolverine
Tanks.
completely tanks.
It's not going
But let's face it,
to.
even if it's a bad movie and we all think it looks pretty good,
Yeah.
even if it's a bad movie, it ain't going to tank.
No.
Have you seen the artwork?
How did the Wolverine do? I don't remember.
It made money.
It made money.
It
They all
made
do.
money, even
I
though
mean,
it was a bad
it's
film.
terrible.
It made money,
Yeah.
and so as long as they're making money, they're not going to give up those rights. And Fantastic Four, maybe, but they've already invested in doing another Fantastic Four film. You know they want to franchise it,
And
you
they
know-
need to.
and
They need to do
want to bring it
another.
into the larger
Yeah.
Marvel world in Fox universe with the X-Men. So
There's the Ant-Man
yeah,
connection
I just
too
don't.
with
I just
Fantastic
don't
Four.
think it'll ever happen.
I think
Yeah.
I should be the next Invisible Woman. Just saying.
You should be the next Invisible
Yes.
Woman. You look like a Supergirl to
I
me.
know. Well,
I
the
could
chat
see-
board
but
said
that's
Wonder
DC.
Woman, but then
I
I would have
know.
to dye my hair.
But if you want to play, I'm saying if you want to play a comic book character, you look like a Supergirl to me.
Also,
Supergirl.
Miss Marvel.
Supergirl. Or Miss
Miss
Marvel.
Marvel.
Miss Marvel. I
Yeah.
could
If you
see
want to be in the
Candace as
Marvel
Miss
world,
Yeah.
you could be a Miss Marvel.
All right, you hear
We're
that?
putting
You
that
hear
in the
guys?
universe now.
You would
Marvel,
have
you
to
hear that?
wear very little.
Shouting it. I'm putting
Yes.
it out
You
there.
have
The
to
secret.
wear-
I'm putting it out in the universe.
Yeah,
Very,
exactly.
very
Do the
little.
secret. But
Well-
you would have to be comfortable being incredibly exposed in your bodily wares.
Oh.
But
how it goes.
I think it would be rough.
Well, listen, we've actually gone over time. It is time for us to wrap this thing up. Once again, I want to remind you guys, stop what you're doing. Jump on over, click the button that you see, and subscribe to our AMC Theaters YouTube channel. It's the best way to keep up to date with all the movie news that we have going up on YouTube, as well as our editorials and, of course, the AMC Movie Talk Show. Visit us over on our website at amctheaters.com/movie-news, which you can see the link to that below. Join us for all this wonderful stuff. Go buy your tickets for a movie this weekend by going to amctheaters.com. And once again, don't forget, we do have that special coming on, 2-for-1 tickets for seeing 7 Psychopaths this coming Saturday. You'll get all the news for that. Do it. Absolutely
I will do
it. So
Then I'm left out.
Everybody, I will
Buy
pay
one,
for
get two
people.
free. Let's do this.
Somebody
So-
want to buy me a ticket?
I want to, as always, I want to thank Roth Cornett,
Thank you.
Amy Rose Eisenbach,
Thank you very much.
Candon Bliss Jackson,
Thank you.
and of course, still filling in for the in Taiwan, Denizen, Mr. Kareem. Thanks so much for filling in, doing all the stuff behind the board. And thank you for joining us. Don't forget to join us next time. Send us your comments and questions. We can't wait to hear them. Until next time, my name's John Campia. Bye-bye.